just bang the gavel.
What was this other thing that they were talking about?
This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5, the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by posting on the bulletin board in the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers a list of dates annually indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 12, 2015. A copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file at the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by myself. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May those assembled here today enjoy the many offerings of our township. May we abide by the rules we have established, those of trust, fellowship, and ethics. And may we place service above self in our daily endeavors. May we always test ourselves on our efforts to be sure they are truth, good for all concerned and benefit to mankind, and provide peace and understanding. Amen. Ms. McCarthy, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase. Deputy Mayor Francois.
Here.
Mayor Kelly.
Here.
Councilman Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Prasad. Here. Councilman Regan. Councilwoman Sherman.
Here.
Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Councilman Wright.
Here.
We're up to the commendations and proclamations. We have a few. No, we have one going first.
We're gonna do the girls first, because they gotta get in and get out.
You never turn it on.
You want to do the Girl Scouts?
Yeah, they have to get in and get out.
This is yours.
There's an extra one, that's why I
Oh.
can't hear.
Ladies basketball team?
Ladies first. There's an extra one.
Oh, okay.
Are you on the ladies basketball team? I think you're.
But it's not you.
Oh, what would I?
You ran over her foot.
You really didn't even know.
Did.
Didn't even notice.
That's because it's small and dainty, so you didn't notice it. Yeah,
So,
You were dainty flowers.
yeah, exactly.
so this is the article that I had mentioned to you. And I'm not sure whether it's time, because it's going to take
I read this article. I'm trying to remember, I remember about it.
On?
You're off.
Can you hear me?
It's on.
Is it on? It is? Doesn't sound like it.
this lady.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. It's very nice to have our young ladies here. I'm going to read the commendation to you. Whereas the Franklin High School girls varsity basketball team, under head coach Audrey Taylor, assistant coaches Shimona Patterson and Alicia Zaro, and volunteer coach Amanda Frost, is to be recognized and honored for their outstanding 2014-2015 season. Whereas by extraordinary efforts, this dynamic team has won back-to-back Group 4 sectional championship titles. That's great, that's great. As well as 2015 Group 4 State and Skyland Conference Delaware Division titles. And ending the season with an amazing record of 24-6. Woo, woo, woo. You gotta make sure you get your accolades while you're here. We're very, very proud of you, young ladies. Whereas the 2014-15 Lady Warriors consist of players Danica Ann Antes, Monique Davis Campbell. Raise your hand when I say your name. Okay, so who was Danica? Danica, I didn't say that right, I'm so sorry. I'm just now looking at this, thanks to our councilman. Monique Davis Campbell,
First step,
she's not here, okay. Tyler Drew,
financial
Not here?
oversight and admin,
Sierra Gibson,
where else it would go.
Camille Gray,
No, I'm saying it's a policy.
Camille,
Financial oversight,
Alexandra Jackson,
the financial impact,
is it Kayla or Kyla?
because you're talking about putting,
Kayla's not here, Kayla Jackson, Adriana Miller, okay. Amaya Rankins, okay, sorry about that. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Brianna Rodriguez, okay. Brianna, okay. They say my name wrong all the time too. They never call me Francois, they call me Francisco Francioso, so don't feel bad. Okay, Tahara Scott, Tahara, okay. I'm really messing up, huh?
oh, we talked about
I should have had you read the names. Mary Prosy,
how much we're gonna talk about it.
is that right? Okay. Kristen Melodica, thank you. I'm so good. If I hesitate, just jump in.
No, I wouldn't dare.
Jada Wild Goose.
We need to explore.
Oh, hey. Okay, did I say that right?
And then,
Okay, all right.
you know, it's,
Jillian Wilson.
I can't shrink, I can't scan.
Okay. And team manager is Chloe Conover. Jasmine Cunningham. Rain Littles. And Rochelle McNair. Whereas the ladies Warriors
Nah, it's good.
were named Courier News Team of the Year.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's fine, a little answer, that's a little, it's not an access, okay, yeah.
Whereas Coach Audrey Taylor is back-to-back All-Skyline
All the
Conference
answers.
Coach
I
of the
told him Martin
Year.
was here. Yeah, I told Lou, he knows.
Whereas the following seniors received special recognition: First Team All-Skyline Conference and All-Area Courier News First Team. Adriana Miller and Jada Wild Goose, Second Team All-Skyline Conference. Mary Trosey, All-Area Player of the Year. Home News All-Area Player, and Adriana Miller.
I can answer the question.
Yay!
I
See, Carl, this is why I had to read the whole thing. I couldn't do the highlights. Whereas Adriana Miller is the Franklin High School girls varsity basketball all-time leading scorer. Let me say that again. Whereas Adriana Miller is the Franklin High School girls varsity basketball all-time leading scorer, scoring 1,514 points during her high school career. Woo! Now, therefore, we, Carl Wright, Councilman, and Christopher Kelly, Mayor, and the Township Council, honor the 2014-2015 Franklin High School varsity girls basketball team and their coaching staff for their outstanding achievements and commend them for the display of sportsmanship and leadership. God bless you.
Okay, good. It's like really.
Hi, everyone. I'm Coach Taylor. I'm actually going to defer to the girls because I always stand up and talk. And I think hearing their experience is a lot better than hearing my experience. So I'm going to let Mary come up and actually you all can come up if you want to support her. But Mary will go up. How's your experience?
Okay. Hello. My name is Mary Trossi. I am a senior and I'm graduating this year. The experience with these girls and Coach Taylor for the last 4 years, even the newcomers that came in this year or last year, was a great experience overall and very memorable, something I won't ever forget. Each of these ladies are very talented and are willing to make it very far in life. We achieved so much throughout the years and learned so much about each other throughout the years, and I just couldn't ask for a better team than them. And I'm glad I was able to play with this team and actually change the community with them, and actually make a big impact to Franklin High School. I just want to say that, speaking on behalf of each of the seniors, that we set a good example for our younger classmen and even our fellow teammates that are younger than us. And yeah.
We've just been talking about this recently because we've been.
Oh yeah, and thank you for the support. We really appreciate it. Yeah. I will be going to Chestnut Hill College in PA. Jada as well will be joining me there too. So yeah.
And Adriana Miller will be going to LaSalle
University, full scholarship.
I'll be attending Rowan University. I'll be going to Temple University. And I will be attending Lackawanna College in PA.
And Tahira Scott, who isn't here, will be attending Howard University.
You can send it to me, and I'll send it to you.
And that is all. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we forgot to say one thing. This is not a team that was put together yesterday. These young ladies have been playing together for a very long time. And that's what we need in Franklin Township. Not a one and done, but maybe 4 plus another 4 plus another 4, then done. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the Franklin Township ladies basketball team. Wait a minute, who's taking the picture? Because I'm in the middle. Who's got the shot?
Where's Bill Bowman?
Wait a minute, I wasn't in it.
I know, I
You
hear.
got me in it?
Which is odd.
Oh, man. Oh, but wait a minute. Did you want to see something? I blew it. No, we'll stand right here and wait for you.
What we got next? Because that one wasn't on the agenda. Somehow it managed to evade us. Mental Health Month or the anniversary.
Sorry about that.
Just throw it in, the fact that it is actually
Make me look tall.
National Police Week too, but I didn't put that one on the agenda.
I just wanted to congratulate you all on this great
There you
thing.
go. I bet you there is.
I graduated Franklin in 1989, very long time ago. I was on the track team and cross country team there that did not actually win very much, except for the winter track team that did very well. So I understand the meaning of being a team and working with the team for a very long time and getting the accolades from this. This is something the council is here to do, is recognize the good things that the youth of today is doing. So just real quick, congratulations.
It's
and
all taken care of. Lou will answer
Have a
his
great time in
questions. He went to Rajiv again. It's all just reviewed by the township attorney. Yeah, no, I'm saying it's all about the right-of-way easement, whatever he thinks exists, but it doesn't. Yeah. It's the same. Yep. Nothing different. He brought new information, which has not really changed the status. No, Rajiv sent it to us. Just came to us on Friday. Rajiv sent him to us, told him to call Vince.
Thank you.
It's never gonna go away.
Okay.
I'm not even going to ask why.
Some easement over a person's property that he thinks.
Got a couple of them.
is not. That's all.
One is a proclamation for mental health, and let me read it. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being. And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas with early and effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full productive lives, and whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. Therefore, we, Rajiv Prasad, Councilman, and Christopher Kelly, Mayor, on behalf of the Township Council, do hereby proclaim May 2015 as Mental Health Month in the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey. As members of the Mayor and Council, we also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Franklin Township to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health. The steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions before they reach stage 4. So, not just physical well-being, but also our mental health, and it is something that is not a shame. It is something that is curable, and we should be addressing it. So let's not shy away from it. And we've all seen, people who have been affected by it in our own friends and family in our circle. So let's just make sure that we get them the help that they need. Thank you. Now, for this, I would ask my friend and former councilman, Dan Glicklick, to come on up here. And Peg, you should come up here too, since you have been supporting him. You're really the woman behind the success. Now, so the Teacher Appreciation Week proclamation, I got to thinking, who should we really honor? I thought first of Dr. Ted Chase, who's spent a lifetime of teaching at the college level, but since it's coming from the council, I figured we'd give it to somebody who, taught at the school level and retired from that. So Dan Glicklick has affected many lives as a teacher, and as they say, if you can read this, thank the teacher. So we're here to thank Dan and Peg for supporting him through his efforts. So, whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely different backgrounds, and whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Franklin, Mayor and Council proclaim May 4th to the 8th to be Teacher Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Township of Franklin, Mayor and Council strongly encourage all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work. Thank you.
Among other things, I taught social studies, and we talked about ancient Greece. One of my students, elementary school students, wrote a short essay about Socrates. He said, Socrates was a very brilliant man, he talked too much. They killed him. So this will be very, very short. Yes, he was a teacher too.
He was.
First of all, congratulations to the ladies basketball team. And I see New Jersey Orators are here. They do a great job every year. It's always very nice to be recognized by one's peers. And not only would I like to thank the council for this honor, but I'd like to praise the council for working closely with the Board of Education to help solve community problems, to save us some taxpayer money. But it's to help provide a good education for our children here in Franklin Township. I know the board and the council have been working together on sidewalks, on schools, on improvements, on sharing services wherever they can. The GREAT program, which is near and dear to my heart, that reaches out to all the students as well. So again, Rajiv, thank you, and the council, thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mr. Former Councilman Dan Glicklick and former Council President Dan Glicklick from North Brunswick, and Peg, his wonderful, lovely wife. Glad to see you here. Now, this next proclamation is near and dear to my heart, and I asked for it to be here tonight. Everybody knows I'm a big proponent for the youth. I work with the Franklin Youth Initiative with Dan as my co-leader, and I think that this organization, the New Jersey Orders, has done so much for our young people throughout the state of New Jersey. They've impacted thousands and thousands of young people's lives. So I'd like for you to come up so we can read the proclamation to you and have you say a few words. We have the co-leaders of the New Jersey Order here, Mr. James Hunter and Eloise Samuels. I'm so bad with names. Okay, so the proclamation reads, whereas New Jersey Orders Incorporated is a nonprofit organization that teaches the art of public speaking, an appreciation for literature, reading and martial arts, and life skills to youth from 7 to 18 years of age in preparation for college. Whereas founded in 1985, this year marks the 30th anniversary of the New Jersey Orders that has grown from one chapter with 16 members to 19 chapters statewide and 2 in Pennsylvania, while staging performances, hosting statewide competitions, and whereas New Jersey Orders will commemorate this momentous occasion on June 6, 2015 at a reception and luncheon at the New Brunswick Hyatt to honor several community leaders and philanthropists, several coaches and their graduating seniors with an urging theme of orders take the lead. Now therefore we, myself, Kimberly, Deputy Mayor, and Chris Kelly, Mayor of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council and all residents of the Township of Franklin, do hereby commend and congratulate the New Jersey Orders on this momentum occasion in celebrating their 30th anniversary. They are homegrown. They are from Franklin Township, and we are really so proud of them. They do so much for us, our young people. Let's give them a hand.
I'm going to take your heed from Socrates as well as from you. And I'm going to talk to you all and just simply say thank you very much for your support that this community has given to all of our young people who are members of our Somerset chapter of the New Jersey Orators. And as we've mentioned, there are 19 chapters throughout the state of New Jersey, and we continue to grow chapters throughout New Jersey. We want to thank you for your support. We want to thank you for your enthusiasm. And we want to just say, for those parents who continue to come out and support the orators by bringing their young people, this is a very wholesome and a very educational program to be involved with. It impacts their lives today and throughout their life. So we again thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor.
And I'll just maybe stay on that same note and keep my remarks very, very brief. This township has been very, very supportive of all of our efforts. And this town council has also worked with the Artist program for all these 30 years. And without your support, we will not be the place where we are today. But there's one person I want to recognize particularly, and it's not Kimberly Francois this time, but it's Mr. Ted Chase. Ted Chase has literally attended almost every Artist program since we were involved. And Ted, thank you so much for your personal support of our program. Thank you so much. And again, for the rest of the council members, we hope to see everybody on June 6th at the Hyatt.
We'll try our best.
Thank y'all very, very much.
Already.
Is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The meeting is open for public discussion on any item of interest which does not have a public hearing of its own. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand, and when recognized, give your name and address. In the reddish purple shirt. Sure, come on. Burgundy, sorry.
Let me turn this thing around. Let's do this now. Yeah, the last time we did this.
Something like that should work a little better. Name is David Gates, Cooper Avenue. Only a little problem. Certainly congratulations to all of those that were on it tonight. I got in the mail last week a wonderful letter from the Township Water Department that said we had been given some bad water a few months ago. The notice was very nice. I had to get my magnifying glass out to read it, but my problem is the time that it took from when the problem arose to when somebody got notified that there was a problem. This one obviously was not too big of a problem, but it does speak to the timing of somebody's not paying attention too well to what was going through the water system. I don't have no idea how many other times something of this sort has happened. Yes, I've seen a couple of these wonderful little notices long after the fact, but for those that might have a problem with what was going through the water, how are they to know that was the water that caused the problem? I personally don't have a problem with my health. That's very good, thank you very much. But there are a lot of township residents whose health is not so good. And according to this, if somewhere just, shortly before Christmas time, somewhere in that neighborhood, somebody decided to get some kind of sick, go to doctor, oh, you got the flu. Take these kind of pills and you should be fine in a week. Except it wasn't the flu, it was whatever one of these little things caused. So it would sound to me like somebody at the water department level should pay a little bit better attention to the passage of time. The letter is self-explanatory of what happened and what actions were taken. But if somebody got sick from this little thing in December, he could very well have been dead by now, before his relatives got the cause of his death. And that is something that I think should be addressed to some degree I'm not asking for blood. I'm not asking to get free water for a year. And I don't need a commendation for speaking up a little bit. But certainly, this kind of a thing is, I would think, in this day and age, not acceptable. You all got your nice little computer things, and most of the world has smartphones and things that they can put messages on to get them out to the general public a whole lot sooner than 5 months later.
Can I address it, Mr. Mayor?
That's my point.
So, sir,
Yes.
let me just clarify some issues here. The original notice that was issued by our supplier, New Brunswick Water. The issue relating to the water and the testing of the water was one that was the New Brunswick Water Utilities issue.
Right.
They notified the public and the DEP within the required time frame that the DEP establishes. When they notified us on that same day, and it's interesting that you talk about computers, the Township of Franklin notified through our website, through a Nixle posting, and through our social media. Immediately, we forwarded the New Brunswick notice to anyone who receives any of those notifications, either through the Township website, which you can also sign up for all updates to be emailed to you, and it's in real time. So when the update goes up on the website, it emails it to you. We notified in the electronic form all that we could notify through those means. So we did do that. On the day that we received the notice from New Brunswick, which was in the approved time frame that the DEP establishes for water utilities. So New Brunswick did report it as required within the appropriate time frame as set by the State of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Once we got it, we have then 30 days to notify our customers. We notified the entire public through our website and through social media immediately. And that mailing, which then has to go to press, and we have to publish, it's not something, there's 19,000 customers, so it's not something that we just run off on a copy machine. It has to go to a printing company. It had to be printed and sent out in the mail, and that's when you got it, which is well within the 30-day requirement that's established by the DEP. So that's really how it all came out. So to answer your question, we did send it out immediately, as soon as we got it.
Most people. I don't
Well, no, what I'm saying is but you comment, and I understand that, and that's why we don't rely solely on electronic, and we do mail it out to all of our customers.
Very good.
Okay? And there's a whole lot of technical parts of this that I'm not going to take up an entire hour explaining to, but if you call the water utility and speak with the water license holder in our water utility, he will explain to you some of the issues related to this that, while I won't say eliminate the threat, but certainly minimize the threat greatly from when it was in the treatment plant in New Brunswick where the testing didn't take place, all the way out to when it gets to us in Franklin.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. In the blue and white stripe, please.
Philip Martin, 8 Old Lane in Highwood. I'm very grateful to Councilman Facade for encouraging me to give it one more try, because the lives and health and safety of the residents of Old Lane are at risk. And I would be grateful if you would allow me to use a visual aid. I don't know if that's permitted.
Yes.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
I would be grateful to you if you would permit me to use a visual aid because when I talk to you about our problem, it would help a great deal. Would that be permissible?
Please. By all means, please.
Last November, I asked the council for help about access for Old Lane residents. Here's a map. I'm not a good artist, but it's the best I could do. Highwood has two roads, Old Lane and Highwood Road. Highwood Road is macadam and is fairly wide and is horseshoe-shaped with two accesses to Easton Avenue. Old Lane is a dead-end road, very narrow, with no place for trucks to turn around, especially fire trucks. Old Lane residents applied for a major subdivision about 20 years ago. We wanted to save as much open space as possible, but created two building lots to help pay the cost of the land and the subdivision. We created 8 nature conservancy lots. I've identified those with the letter C, and the building lots with the letter B. Those conservancy lots are now owned by the state of New Jersey as parts of the Delaware and Raritan Canal State Park. Franklin officials, when we applied for the subdivision, told me they would support the subdivision providing this historic road that's existed for 200 years connecting Old Lane to Highwood Road would be kept open as a service road. They said that water main dead ends on Old Lane, and we need to loop that to the water main on Highwood Road to increase the pressure for fire prevention fire treatment purposes, and also when it's cleaned out, our water quality suffers greatly because they open the hydrant and try to clean it out, but in the process, our water is brackish now for several days, whereas if it was looped, the water quality could be better maintained. Township maintenance vehicles, the second reason township officials wanted this kept open was for their maintenance vehicles for water main purposes and possibly for sewer line purposes, because Councilman Beecham brought the sewers across to the far end of Highwood about 25 years ago. And when our septic start to fail, it'd be far better, especially for the quality of water in the canal, which is part of the Elizabethtown water supply, if we were to use grinder pumps. We can't have a pumping station because a huge pumping station for only a few homes, but grinder pumps we could have to help replace those failing septic systems. Because of and that access road, the service road, would be the only way we could get that sewer line through. Third, because of the narrowness of Old Lane, it is virtually, the impossibility of widening it. If you widen Old Lane, property values will be cut in half because it'll come right up to the doors of several houses. And also because of the absence of any possible turnaround area, fire trucks would need to use the service road to get back to Easton Avenue. As things stand today, the fire trucks would have to block off traffic here on Easton Avenue, and I don't know how long it would take, 5 minutes, and back up, and it's very not easy to back up something like that on a very narrow road. Whereas with the loop road here, they can come in, right around, and come back out very easily on the service by means of the service road. So I said to the township officials, fine, I like keeping the service road open. Well, of course, incorporate it. I didn't know that both our attorneys and the planning board would drop the ball, as they apparently have. I'm not a planner and I'm not an attorney, but I was astute enough to know that something's wrong here, and so I insisted that every lot on the service road, whether it's abuts it or whether the service road goes through it, gives an access and a utility easement to every other lot, which they did, and I have those easements in my file. Just because some of these lots were sold does not mean that these easements should be invalidated. 1 was sold to a private party and 4 were sold to the state. Furthermore, just because the planning board and the attorneys failed to place the service road on some of their surveys, they did place it on some, not all, but some of them, should not invalidate the use of a road that has existed for 200 years, one that is critical for the health and safety of Old Lane residents. There's no problem at all with the state-owned conservation lots adjoining or traversed by the service road. The Canal Park Superintendent even went to the trouble of meeting with Mr. Vornlacher to speak on our behalf. The two portions of the service road going through state lands are public access anyway, and there's no problem with the portion of the road traversing lot 62.02, which has a house on it. The owner, John Carbone, is here with me today to ask for your help to keeping the service road open in perpetuity. The only problem is about 70 feet traversing lot 66.04, owned by Rosie Howard. Ms. Howard contends that the road was never shown on her survey. Well, I have a copy of a survey done by Thomas Rex on August 24, 2001, certified to both Franklin Township and Cornerstone developers, clearly showing the service road as a gravel drive. Ms. Howard not only denies the validity of the service road, she never honored the terms of her deed requiring cooperation with the conservancy theme of Old Lane residents, specifically planting certain trees around her perimeter. When this problem was brought to the attention of Franklin zoning officer, Mr. Dominic, I was very disappointed that the only thing he seemed interested in was a recorded right-of-way agreement limiting the use of the service road to emergency vehicles only. Why he would select that as opposed to all the easements I have giving unfettered access for utility and travel by Old Lane residents, I didn't understand. I did not, this was an attempt to sabotage that goes back 15 years, sabotage the purpose of keeping our service road open. I didn't catch it at the time. That service road is needed not only for future water and sewer connection, not only for township water line maintenance and vehicles, not only by township fire trucks, it is also needed by residents of Old Lane. If there's a blockage on Old Lane, how is an ambulance going to get through? And if there's a blockage, how are Old Lane residents going to get to Easton Avenue for work or school, not to speak of getting to a hospital quickly? Coming out of Old Lane onto Easton Avenue, the visibility is only 600 feet in each direction. Whereas if you go on the service road to Highwood Road and go to the northernmost exit of Highwood Road, you have almost half a mile of visibility going to the right, where you can turn around and then if you want to go left. Long ago, for residents who have some vision problems or who are elderly, who have some kind of disability or another, having a safe way to access Easton Avenue is critical. Long ago, I researched Highwood and the Somerville records. I traced it back to 1808, and I believe it may go back further than that. The 25-room mansion that burned down September 10th, 1944, was the main house in this district, which until 1920 was known as Soma Riva, which loosely means on the banks. My dining room was the farmer's cottage in those days, 1835, servicing the mansion's owners. There were two barns, mine and another one that burned down before I was born. Halfway down the slope to the canal was a blue ice house we used to play in, where blocks of ice from the canal were stacked to serve as a refrigerator for the mansion. And there was an 8-seater outhouse with the same architectural style as the mansion, my playhouse in the 30s and 40s. That service road has existed probably for 200 years. Today is absolutely critical that it be maintained not only for the health and safety of Old Lane residents, but for the well-being of Franklin's fire companies and first aid squads as well. The quality of water in the canal, part of the Elizabethtown water supply, is also at stake because, as I said, when the septic start to fail, we'd have to have that service road to use for the sewer line and grinder pumps. The quality of water in the canal is at stake.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're going to need to wrap it up here a little bit, if you can.
His daughter wants 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's going to.
I'm saying, we got to move him along.
I know, I was going to say, we need to wrap it up a little bit, so I know the attorney, Lou Raynone, can answer your questions.
Just
For the council's background, we actually were supplied copies of all of the documents that Mr. Morrison has been referring to some months ago, maybe 6 months ago, and again, as a result of his most recent inquiry, we went back and took a look at everything again. The issue here is relatively simple one from a municipal point of view. All of these various easements are all easements between private property owners. None of them are easements to the township. Some of the roads that were, I have in front of me the wonders of technology, the township GIS map, so that I can look and see what's there and what's not there. And none of these are public roads or public right-of-ways. So now we have the question of, how do we step in and enforce essentially private property rights when we have neighbors who believe that they have access over their neighbor's property is essentially what it is. And whether there are good reasons or bad reasons for that access, whether it's that they believe it's more convenient or they maybe believe it's more safe, the problem is that for us to step in and create a road, for instance, would require us to condemn somebody's property. We would have to exercise eminent domain. We would have to, and of course we can't go in and condemn a driveway and build it. We would then have to build a road to our municipal standards, and we would have to condemn enough property to do that, and we would have to pay the cost of doing it. Now, there's a number of different ways to do that, one of which, if you wanted to undertake a road project, like any new road project, is to go in and condemn all the necessary property, come up with a cost for that, come up with a cost to build the roads, and assess it to all of the property owners. But other than that, we don't have the authority to step in. Any one of these property owners, by the way, has a legal right if they believe that somehow there's an easement that benefits their property that is being somehow usurped by their neighbor, of going in and filing an action to enforce whatever their rights are. Unfortunately, we don't have any of those rights. So if you call Vince Dominic, who's our zoning officer, he doesn't necessarily have any authority to go in and say, okay, now you have a shared driveway and everybody play nice and you have to do this and you have to do that. We just don't have the authority to do that. So this answer is an answer that I think was given to the property owners 6 months ago, but we did go back and take a look at it again to see if there's anything else we could do. The last document that I read was a right-of-way. I don't even know what it is. It's a grant without a grantor in it. I guess that was filed by the owner of 6204, or maybe the previous owner. And I don't, for the life of me, I don't know what it is because it's not to the benefit of the township. And I think that it was an attempt to preserve at least a part of the service road for emergency access. So that's kind of where we are. I mean, I think we've taken this as far as we want unless the township decides that it wants to exercise its governmental powers in somewhat more aggressive way. But that would require us going and, as I said, beginning to take property and then developing a funding mechanism for doing that and exercising eminent domain to do it. And that's really our only options because none of these deeds are all interesting, except none of them name us as a party.
And I'd just like to add, and you can correct me if I am incorrect, but given the hierarchy of government, a portion of this road is actually owned by the state of New Jersey, so therefore we could not take that property by eminent domain.
Oh, we certainly can't do that. And I was going to say that I looked at your map, which, by the way, not bad. It's pretty good.
It is pretty
good. The service road that we show is owned by the New Jersey DEP, so I don't know what how that's a quiet title action between whoever gave the land to New Jersey and the only governmental entity that's remotely involved here would be DEP, and I don't know that even they have, from what I could see from the documents, they have any enforceable rights here either.
No, what the service road, and so certainly Mr. Martin referenced a conversation that I had with Patricia Calliser, who's the DNR Canal State Park Superintendent. That discussion really was limited to the state property and the accessibility of the state property. There were some issues as to whether there was a use of that property as far as parking was concerned, and someone had posted no parking signs. And it is accessible to the public, so it is their access road to the property that was, I believe, granted to them by the Conservancy that Mr. Martin references. This issue at the one lot in particular, where there is some documents that indicate a 20-foot wide, 75-foot long easement, I think, and Mr. Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just recently provided this right-of-way document that was done by the owner previous to the current owner, and that's what I think Mr. Dominic focused on, because that was really the only significant new document that was provided. And that document, as Mr. Raynone said, is a right-of-way that grants right-of-way to no receiver. It is the property owner granting right-of-way for the use of that portion of his property solely for emergency vehicles, but it doesn't grant that to anyone in the document. It doesn't say we grant this right-of-way to the Township of Franklin or anyone else. It was done for $1 as required by law, but I don't know who the recipient of that $1 was. And I have not been able to find any document in the Township's records that say that that right-of-way was granted to the Township of Franklin. So I'm not quite sure what the lawyer did there, but it certainly would seem that it's nothing valid as far as the Township is concerned.
And once again, when I went back, and the one place that I think that your map probably was not accurate is it shows a service road that extends back, or an old lane, I guess, that extends back, that doesn't appear to me to be on any map. And when I look at an aerial view, it doesn't appear to exist in a manner in which you could see it, like there's a road carved out or there's anything other than there might be some access back and forth. So there are a number of different ways to create public roads. We kind of ticked through all of the list on how to do that, and that didn't happen. So and this is not to say we're not without power, but once again, our power here is limited to us. We would have to, and by the exercise of eminent domain, for those of you who may not have been here the last time this was a subject matter in this council chambers, it would require us to lay out the road, appraise the property, condemn it, pay a property owner for it. We don't have the power to just take it because we decided that we need safety. We'd have to actually compensate somebody for it.
Sir, may I ask a question?
Sure, one more question, and then I think we need to move forward.
Because the state portions of the road are already permanent road access, and whereas there are only 2 sections of private road, and whereas one owner of a large section of the private road is sitting right here and favors giving the township that right-of-way, would it be possible to bypass that resisting owner completely with the cooperation of the state? It would only take maybe the 73 through her property would probably only take 100 feet. It would break my heart.
To create a public road?
To create a Franklin Township service road.
And the purpose of the service road is to allow the people in the neighborhood unlimited access on it? Yes. The answer is probably no. First, the state won't do it because there's limitations in the state. This is DEP, so it means it's Green Acres money, and it's subject to those restrictions. Secondly, the state is a little bit like a private property owner. If we say to them, we need to put a road on your DEP property, besides the fact that it is a process that I could not begin to tell you, it's the plot of Games of Thrones is simpler than what it is to go and get property from the state like this. It would take a long time, and the DEP just doesn't do it. But the answer is that there's nothing compelling other than the fact that it's easier for you to get out onto Eastern Avenue. There's nothing about this that's necessary for the public health, safety, or welfare. And you have private property rights. So this is just a group of property owners, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, trying to figure out a way how you can get the government to kind of come in and expend taxpayer dollars to solve a problem that's really a problem amongst a bunch of private property owners. If you have easement rights, you can go into court and get those enforced, and I think that that's probably in all respects, the simplest way to do this, if you really have those rights. If you don't, then this isn't, it's a non-starter.
Just a couple of concerns. One, Mr. Martin pointed out that there are failing septic systems. Now, having failing septic systems right next to the canal where we get, the whole township gets its own water, is something of graver consequence than just an access road.
Correct.
All of us in Franklin will be affected by that.
Correct, and so there's a few parts to that. First, if there are private houses and their septic systems fail and they can't be fixed, they have a health problem on their property that they need to solve, which means at their expense. Secondly, condemning property for us to put a sewer line under it is effectively the same, though the width of it may be a little different, is effectively the same as us condemning property to build a public road. The cost is the same. Third, if you condemn a utility easement, allows us to put a pipe on the ground, whenever you have a condemnation and you appraise property, there's two components to it. The first is, what is the cost of the property I'm taking? That's the taking cost. The second is, what's the damage to the remainder? So if I condemn, or if the town condemns a piece of property and puts a pipe on the ground and puts grass on top of it, the damage to the remainder is probably slight, so there's not much. If I condemn it to put a public road, which means I've now taken it it's a permanent taking, it's not an easement, it's something that's very different, the cost of it is exponentially higher. But the answer is that if the township decided they wanted to do a sewer project here, we would then, if we needed easements, we would go in and condemn easements. But we're not condemning service roads unless the township wants to build roads, and then that becomes a whole completely different problem. And the other thing, of course, is that the cost of it, once again, becomes a cost of the property owners. Because if it's not a private, if this is not a, this is a public improvement that benefits only a few property owners. So we wouldn't, that's a policy decision, ultimately, of course. But yes, the answer is yes, we have those powers. We could condemn it to put water lines in if we wanted to. We would have, but it doesn't change, depending on what you want to do, you'd have to pay the cost. But I'm not hearing here that we're talking about condemning it for a sewer pipe. We're talking about condemning it to put public access on it.
And the fire truck not being able to come into our lane doesn't mean anything?
Well, I don't know that that's not the case. I don't know that that's not the case. And B, I wasn't here when we did the subdivision, so I'm not sure which properties can't be serviced by a fire truck. If we're worried that the fire truck can't turn around, that happens all the time. What happens is that when they get to Eastern Avenue, they put a fireman out on the road, he blocks traffic, and they back out. I mean, that's what happens.
Excuse me.
It's not that they can't get there.
So just for Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Vasanella?
So,
Good. Yeah, that's
just
fine.
to clarify an issue.
Doesn't make it a public road.
Ms. Reno, just to clarify one issue, because earlier in this process, and speaking to Mr. Moore about this, what is the exact status of emergency vehicles? I hear everything you're saying, and we discussed it in land use, a lot of these issues months ago, or aspects of why, not that we're helpless, but that this isn't something we can really get involved with to the capacity that we're being requested to. However, are emergency vehicles right now, and if you could hold that map up, because that actually is a really good map for our purposes here, in my opinion. Can emergency vehicles right now, is it understood that they have access in an emergency? And maybe that's why it wasn't designated what access, it was just understood all emergencies would have vehicles. So anyway, because that's my biggest concern.
I can address that one, actually, with a little experience.
I have the GIS map in front of me, and there's not one of these properties that's landlocked.
No.
So that means that they all somehow have frontage on a road that can be accessed. So the question here is not that none of these properties have access for an emergency vehicle.
No, I think that what Council...
I don't think that's really a question.
Councilman Vestino, is your question that is this dirt road used by emergency services? Is that your question?
If it deemed necessary.
So my answer to
get a
that
vehicle
is, as a former police officer for 27 years here in the Township of Franklin, I not once did I ever use something that I didn't even know existed until Mr. Martin came forward several months ago. I had never seen it used. I never used it myself. I certainly patrolled that area of the township on countless occasions, and I was never made aware of it during any course of training that I had since 1985 to the time I left the police department in 2012. So I'm not quite certain how important it was. Is it sometimes, so did I go down Old Lane Highwood? I certainly did. You turn around in somebody's driveway. If we had to get an ambulance out or a fire truck out, like Mr. Raynone said, you go out into Easton Avenue and you stop traffic and let them back out. It may be an inconvenience, but it certainly doesn't cut that street off from emergency services. And I'm not aware of any road being there until, like I said, Mr. Martin came forward several months ago.
And once again, getting back to their policy decisions and legal decisions, if council believes that that's necessary to do that, we can. I mean, there's a method in the law to do it. We would have to create public roads across people's property, and we would have to do that, and it would come with everything that comes with having public roads, but there's a cost to it, and we would be required to pay for anybody who didn't want to give it to us voluntarily. We would have to pay for it, and we'd have to pay to construct the roads, because we couldn't, from a liability point of view, we couldn't just condemn it and leave them as gravel roads, because we have all those kind of issues. Because once they become public roads, then if they have gravel on it and somebody walks and they fall.
And it would have to be improved to the level of what is required in the residential site improvement standards, which is part of the New Jersey Administrative Code. And in this particular case, the easements are indicated at 20 feet wide. That's not an acceptable right-of-way width, so we would have to acquire more than that. And the minimum standard in New Jersey is 20 feet wide for a road.
Correct.
So it would have the acquisition would go beyond what currently exists there, and the entire 20 feet would have to be improved.
The net here, and Mr. Vornlocker is right, and you would have to put in drainage, and you have to do all of those things, because when we build a road and then it becomes impervious and the water runs into somebody's backyard, you'll hear that. The answer here is the same answer that it was 6 months ago. And I don't understand the reluctance is everybody who has a deed, who has an easement in it, has a much more enforceable right than we have. So they should go to court and enforce their right. Sometimes that's the best and simplest. It truly is the most simple answer here, because the alternative is a public improvement project, which, like I said, we're perfectly capable of and able to do, but we'd have to do it the right way. We can't just just do it we can't just condemn and then say to the people there, okay, we condemn it, use it as ever you want. I mean,
I understand what you're saying. Just if you could just tell me, is the process to have something deemed usable for whatever standards legally there are as an emergency access road the same as it would be as far as complexity and cost, to have it turned into a road like I believe they like us to do? I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's kind of a civil matter among property owners. My concern, although I feel for them, my personal concern, biggest concern is our emergency services feel there would be any benefit. Minutes, seconds could matter. I don't know. And if there was, is there a more modified way it could be made usable for emergency vehicles without to the extent of what sounds more like a civil issue?
We've looked at this a lot, and just so we're clear what we're talking about here, this is folks who would like to have access across other folks' property to get in and out of their houses. This is not an issue that came to us from the police or from EMS or from the fire department. So none of those. that's a kind of an after-the-fact, explanation for what we want to do here. But the answer is that once we do something, once you act and you take the property, now you have all of those obligations because, let me give you, for instance, we cut the road through, but we decide we're just going to leave it in its natural state. Now we've cut a public road through, and the fire truck goes to use it, but it gets stuck. You've now bought all of that liability that you didn't have before because they went to use an access road that we cut in for emergency purposes that really was not functional for that purpose. And now we have all of that liability. So the answer is that once you do it, you just have to do it. I mean, you don't have any, there's not really kind of a halfway to do this. So, the answer is that you have to do that. And by the way, since I read every tort claim notice in which somebody's car gets hurt in a pothole, you get all of those too. So, everybody whose car bottoms out on that service road files a tort claim notice with us. That's what happens, because now you've opened it, you've made it a public road, you've invited the public onto it, and once you've done that, then it's a public road. It's like any other, it's like the road in front of Town Hall.
All right, I think we've covered that one. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Okay, start in the front. Thank you.
Good evening. Scott Siegel, Avery Court, Mr. President, members of council. At the last council meeting, Councilman Prasad had spoken about the closure of the post office on Hamilton and Franklin. And I talked about a village post office. It's something I never heard of before. So in the last couple of weeks, I started off by doing a little research on that. And he's right on most of the major points with this. It's a very limited facility. You can buy stamps through first-class mail. You can do priority mail, but there's multiple classes of postage that you cannot send out of that facility. He's also correct that you can't weigh anything. He also was correct in saying there's one other post office like this in New Jersey. It's in Seabright. But the program itself is made for rural post offices, because they're the ones who are taking the brunt of the post office closings. In my opinion, Seabright is an exception to the rule because obviously it got destroyed by Sandy.
Seabright was closed. It's now Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza.
There you go.
They opened this weekend.
Okay, there you go. So there's a village post office there, but I don't think it would apply here. So what I try to think of doing is what can we do to try to maintain the services or the vast majority of services there. And the first thing I thought of was stamps.com, which is used by individuals and businesses to make your own stamps. I went online, it does a lot more than that. It does anything a post office can do. You can do every class of mail. Yes?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Every class of mail that you want. You can even do up to 70 pounds. And the post office picks up the postage every day for you, too. And you don't have the legacy costs that you would have with the post office. You also spoke about wiring money. So I looked into that as well. And someone can set up a Western Union franchise, which can do that, become an agent there. So my next thing was, what can we do to try to get the services to the senior citizens and residents in that area? And right around the other side of the building is a place called Skylight Logistics, owned by a man named John Okoye, a very nice gentleman. Spoke to me. He's over 35 years in the logistics industry, retired. Heard about the post office and bought this property in particular. He is everything that I had talked about, he's basically doing. He used a thing called Stamps Go, which is not a private business entirely, but you get approved by the post office, then you run it private. And he's going to be able to do that along with FedEx and DHL. And all these things will come in together and be able to show customers all the prices of each level of service. In fact, he has been approved by the post office. He's already starting to meter some people's mail. And not only that the facility he has is going to be open much better hours to consumers. Post office closes at 5 o'clock. He's open till 7. And he's open at 3 o'clock instead of noon on Saturday. So sometimes you don't need the government to get involved with this. Sometimes the answer is really staring you straight into the face. And I want to congratulate Mr. Okoye. In fact, the post office is going to do several things for him. They have a picture of his building, and they put on a flyer. They're going to mail it out to all the residents in the area with the USPS label on it, so people know it's an approved post office. And beyond that, once the post office does close, there's going to be a sign directing people to his place of business. So I want the residents in that area know that your postal services will be kept intact. Only things which you can't do as of right now, he said he's going to try to work on it, is if you get something delivered to you by the post office, you're not home, you get a notice, you have to go to the post office. So I don't know if he can do that. But besides that, every other service he's going to do, he's trying to buy the post office boxes. You can't, he'll build his own. So that will also be available. So I want to really congratulate Mr. Okoye for coming to the aid of this community and wish him a lot of success in his project. And I did got some of his business cards, so if any member of the council wants to sit there and talk to him, you can get in touch with him. Yes?
Yeah, and Mr. Siegel, there was part of my report, and we just got a email today from Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman's office with a note from the U.S. Post Office saying that Skylight Logistics is a partner, and 873 Hamilton Street is his address.
That's correct.
And that there would be no disruption in service. And this was the response we got from the United States Postal Service. So it is something that I was going to announce, but you beat me to it. So, but there are others who are also looking to step up, and the local UPS franchise is also looking to set up shop right next door to handle parcels, etc. And they also have a Western Union concession. So it's something that I have been working on with the local merchants, and it's in the works. So, but this was a welcome email from Congresswoman Coleman's office today that we got. So there's going to be no disruption in service. And thanks to Skylight Logistics.
Yeah, we wish the guy a lot of success, and hopefully it works out for everybody there. He won't be burdened with the legacy costs that the post office has.
Right.
Their trucks are going to pick it up. He doesn't have to have trucks and pay for gas or insurance. So he's a much better bet for him to succeed than the post office does.
Right. And Reverend Soares was also involved in trying to help by trying to get a village post office started, but now he won't have to. So.
Right. The village post office really does not serve the needs of the community.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for your caring and for your research.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
He's not mine. He's a really nice guy. He's also a Franklin Township resident as well.
Thank you again.
199 Columbus. My name is Michael Williams, and I'm running for mayor here in Franklin Township. I feel that people in this town, the folks, they deserve a debate. And so I ask, will you have a debate with me?
I don't think that this is.
I don't know the legalities of that one.
I'm a little surprised in a 2-month-old campaign that you're now coming up to ask for a debate. I'm open to debates, but this is a government caucus, a government function that's a partisan election, so I'm not going to talk about it here. After the meeting adjourns, happy to talk about seeing what we can do.
Well, then I'll ask the mayor, then, since I'll address my question to the mayor and the council and say this. I ask you to make this People's Hall available for this function. It's been done in the past before.
No,
and,
not
yes,
for partisan political debates. This is a government building, so you can't have a Democratic primary debate here. This is a public building.
Well,
so,
we've had mayoral debates here before.
I don't know that that's the case.
Have not.
Have not.
Are you sure? Okay.
I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Unless it was a long time ago.
No, not ever in a primary, no. Sorry.
So there's a difference between the general election and
Sure.
the primary?
You're running for mayor and you don't know that?
I
The
know
answer is
that,
yeah.
But when it comes to debate,
Yeah, one's a
debate.
party function, so it really is, but the answer is that we don't use the public buildings for those purposes.
Okay.
So you'd have to do that privately, but that's really not, no question about it.
All right. Well, thank you. Feel free to give me a call.
To me.
You're welcome. Is there a motion to close the open session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I'll start the council comments down on this side with Councilwoman Sherman.
Oh. I thought I had that privilege the last time, but okay.
Trying to keep you on your toes.
I just have two things to talk about. I apologize, I'm getting a bit of a laryngitis here. There is something called Sweet Georgia Brown, a special program for Military Appreciation Month that will be held at the Recreation Center on Thursday, May 28th from 11 to 1. The doors will open at 10:30. And will be at the Franklin Township Senior Center. And the subject is the African American women who served in World War II, a group that has not had the acknowledgement that it ought to. And I urge everyone who is available at that time to be there and recognize their contribution. Excuse me. The other thing I wanted to talk about was a meeting that we had for the destination marketing program. That was very exciting to me. We really came up with some great ideas and thoughts with regard to what it is that Franklin has to offer. A couple of things came out of it. One that I think is probably of great value potentially, and that is to market Franklin as a convention location. And that's something we have not done before. We're a bit of a distance away from bringing this all together. The other thing we're doing is Tiffany Delaney is helping us put together the strategy for a $25,000 grant that would be available from the county through the state, I believe it is. And oh, it's from the state through the county. Yes, exactly. That's what I meant. Thank you. And that would go primarily toward printing. But man, you can get a lot of printing for $25,000, and we can get our message out. You do need to hire a firm, advertising/marketing, that would help us decide what to do with that information and design the artwork. But I just feel we have so many good reasons why we should get that grant. I'm almost counting on it. So I'll keep you posted as we move ahead. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes. See, Mr. Martin had left, but as much as it seems that we're relatively, I shouldn't say helpless, but not practical for the township to intervene in the issue there, I do appreciate him bringing it to council. I reviewed quite a bit of documents and referenced this situation. I know Councilman Prasad has more recently, and if there are any changes, I guess we can review the situation again, and hopefully maybe they'll be able to get it resolved amongst themselves, or if it does go to court, hopefully it will be a simple process for everyone involved. I did want to just respond real quickly. The fellow who brought up the issue about the post office. It's good that we have private industry, especially small businesses stepping in. And the Franklin resident to boot is even an added plus that their business could be successful. So as much as I think most of us up here feel that that was a wrong decision or not the best decision to have the post office closed, and that the post office, Washington could have looked better at the needs of the residents in the area, at least it's good to know, at the very least, that it seems that private industry will jump in and fill the void and hopefully be able to provide the same, if not perhaps some better services, maybe some longer hours than the post office had originally. So I'm happy to see that that's moving in the right direction.
Mr. Mayor.
That's it.
Oh. Mr. Mayor, if I may, I left something out about the report about the Sweet Georgia Brown.
Yes, Ms. Sherman, go ahead.
I apologize. It does have two showings, one from 11 until 1, and one at 7 to 8:30. So you can see it at night if you are working, and they ask for pre-registration. So please call 732-873-1991 and hit number 4 to reserve your seats. Thank you very much.
We're over to Councilman Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Saturday, I went and attended the Buddha birthday celebrations, and they do have enormous building plans for it, and it's going to be a garden around the Buddha statue, and people can walk in, and then behind it they'll have a little community center, which they hope that they'll break ground on, and are waiting for a permit to do so. So that I'll take up with the township manager. The post office we've already spoken about. You know, everybody was involved, Bonnie Watson Coleman, as well as Assemblyman Joe Danielson, as well as, you know, the First Baptist Church and other residents in the area. So we are all concerned, and for Skylight Ventures to step in and take up the need is commendable, and hopefully there'll be no break in service. And a little competition is always good, so having UPS right next door also would be a benefit. So we've got one of the local merchants looking into carving out his store into a UPS substation there. So, and he already has the Western Union franchise, so should be able to handle the money order needs of the people. There is a Asian American New Jersey Forum being held on June 7th at the Ukrainian Center, so they are holding a statewide meeting here in Franklin, and we have been asked to send a proclamation, which we have sent for it. And what prompted, of course, my concerns with Mr. Martin's case was for the sewers that might be failing, as well as the close proximity to the canal where all of us get our water, and then, of course, the health and safety of emergency vehicles, etc. So that's why it was worth looking into. And finally, we have received a note from our Franklin Baseball League that they're in need of additional parking, and their senior field is the only regulation field in town, and they're looking for some lighting for it. So I will turn that whole thing over to the manager and
Mr. Prasad, this is a request to council for funding.
Right.
And this has been discussed, and this is the second time that the Little League has made that request for funding for lighting on a field and for a new concession stand.
Right.
What I would say to you on that particular request is that is a decision for council, not your township manager.
No.
So they have asked for that funding before. Yeah. And I received the same letter that you did.
Okay.
And they also made an application for a CDBG grant as well. And that is, if you want to have it on an agenda for one of your committees, that's fine. I'm just saying that that's something that's been discussed in the past.
Right. It's just so the whole council got that letter, and so we need to look into it. And you know, unlike funding some of the other activities. They have even taken over our own rec department's baseball activities.
Right. They haven't taken over the rec department's baseball activities. The rec department in this town never funded or sponsored baseball, Little League baseball, as I'm sure Mr. Vasanella will attest to, because he was certainly a participant in it, and not that long ago, right, Mr. Vasanella?
Only about 40
The Township
years.
Recreation Department never had a baseball league and never had baseball. They had the Little League, both in Somerset, Southbound Brook, and in the Franklin Township Little
They
League.
did include, it's going back decades, I don't know what they do now, some baseball games in their general recreation program.
Right.
Not an actual baseball league, but for what it's worth, I want to take over your spotlight.
Right.
But probably partly due to the fact that Little League has been so entrenched and self-sufficient and providing all of the baseball needs that we need. But back to you.
Yeah, no, just to add to that, there was a T-ball program being played at Sampson G. Smith, and my kids were part of that. So I can attest to the really young 4 or 5 year olds were playing T-ball there, and that was part of Franklin Recreation. So, but it's something that we should consider, considering that they're now getting into, statewide games, etc., and it's a reflection on Franklin. So we could look at it and evaluate it and see what that request is all about. So with that, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Chase.
One point I'd like to make is we've only had one good rain since the end of March. Things are getting very dry. 2 points about this. One is there's getting to be a considerable fire danger out in the environment, and everyone should be very careful not to start any fires. The second thing is this is the time to take note of our water conservation ordinance. Water your lawn not more than twice a week. Water it early in the morning before 9 o'clock when the water will sink in rather than evaporating. Be really, begin to be really conscious of the need to conserve water, particularly if you are on a well. Even if your well doesn't fail, perhaps your neighbor's will. This is the 7th meeting I've been to in the last 2 days. I don't think I can report on all of them, but perhaps the most unusual was a meeting in Hopewell about a bill to make commercial sale of venison allowed. At present, a hunter cannot sell a deer carcass that they have shot. In fact, it's even illegal to give it away, even within your family, although the state can't exactly trace that. But apart from one program whereby venison is given to food banks. But as many people realize, we have a severe deer overpopulation. The Ag Advisory Committee is looking into having an aerial survey of the deer population in this town. In the Hopewell Valley, this meeting was in Hopewell. The estimate by DEP personnel who are very well trained in this estimate 84 deer per square mile when a carrying capacity which will allow the forest to regenerate native vegetation is about 12 deer per square mile. So we're beginning to look into the possibility of programs of a program of legislation which would allow hunters to sell the deer that they take, and therefore we hope greatly increase the number of deer that they take, decreasing perhaps the number that run into township residents' automobiles with considerable damage, and decreasing the damage to our forests where The native vegetation essentially cannot regenerate because the deer eat it all. The only thing that's growing up are things like multiflora rose that the deer don't eat because it has thorns. I went to a Somerset County meeting on the Supreme Court decision regarding affordable housing. A lot of what was discussed is not really relevant to us because while we will have to file a request for declaratory judgment, Mr. Raynone can tell you more about that if anyone is interested. We already had certification from COA. This puts us in the most privileged category of towns, and we expect that when we can send in our plan, a plan which will be the subject of a public hearing at the Planning Board on May 20th, we hope that we will get speedy approval of our plan because since we've been building affordable housing all along, we are way ahead of the game. I went to a meeting this morning of Somerset County Business Partnership and heard about the Sustainable Raritan Initiative from Dr. Judy Shaw of the Blaustein School of Rutgers University, and which we, of course, have a considerable frontage on the Raritan, which we perhaps don't appreciate as much as we might because we have the canal between us and it. We do have a couple of points where we can cross the canal. And I was at a meeting this afternoon of the Regional Growth Task Force of the Central Jersey Transportation Forum, which I was able to say a little bit about the progress we're making in smart growth, as well as in meeting our affordable housing need. But this is something to continue paying attention to. This council did adopt a resolution in favor of smart growth. So one of the first towns in the Central Jersey Transportation Forum area to adopt this resolution, and I think we've generally proceeded according to those principles. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
1 second, Councilman Prasad.
Yeah, just, Councilman Chase brought up the rain, and I forgot to mention, I had mentioned it the last time, that we are going to try and do a demonstration cricket game next Saturday at Catalpa, this Saturday, coming Saturday, between 12 and 2. And the only possibility is that there may be rain, which is much needed, so we may have a rain date for the following Saturday. So hopefully the weather will be better. And and the other point I just wanted to point out was we need to do something about the deer. About a month ago, there was a deer, about 250 pounds, came and destroyed my entire front end. It cost me about $5,000 worth of damage, or I would have ended up totaling my car. So it is a real problem. They, especially at night, they're blind and they just run, and it's something that we need to really look at, having personally suffered it. And I was just hoping and praying that we did not have to put down the deer, but the police officer was looking for the deer, but luckily the deer got up and walked away into the wood, limping away. So, but still, it's something that is a major problem throughout the town. So we need to look at it. And it's unfortunate that the predators that used to eat them are no longer there, and so they keep multiplying. So. Thank you.
Councilman Kramer.
Thank you. Mr. Prasad, I'm glad it was the damage to the front end of your car, not your front end, as you had stated.
To my car.
Yeah. And perhaps if what Mr. Chase related about deer meat being sellable, that may solve our deer problem right there. Capitalism is a very powerful entity. So first thing I would like to do is commend the school personnel. There was an article in the Franklin Reporter and Advocate about school personnel coming to the aid of a student and saving their life, and I would just like to commend them on their quick work and quick thinking. This past week, I was at a function called Ramble in the Barn. It was to raise seed money for Canal Fest, which raises money for the food bank. I think it's going to be a yearly function. Great music, great food, and for a worthy cause. This coming weekend on the 17th is, no, it's not the 17th. It's this Sunday. The walk and roll, the walk and roll will be, which is where we shut down Canal Road from East Millstone all the way down to Butler Road. Maybe I'll meet the mayor again. 5.5 miles roughly of road you can walk on, ride your bike on. It may rain this weekend, has been pointed out. So May 31st, Sunday, May 31st is the rain date. Water, Mr. Chase mentioned the water issue as far as the drought and water conservation, and I think that is a very important point. We usually are blessed in New England. I'm from New England, and the neighboring states, New Jersey, New York, with good rain in the Northeast. But there are times we don't have it, and water conservation is something we need to look at very closely. Not only does, when you use water, do you use water, but when you use non-renewable electricity, you're using water because that water is needed to cool the generators, cool the facilities. So all types of conservation are important with water, and right next to the council chambers is Charles Street, which is the canary for Franklin for as far as water use. Their wells go dry first. So please follow what Dr. Chase said and conserve water. Thank you.
Councilman Wright.
Mr. Mayor, real short. The Recreation and the Franklin Housing Authority will both hold meetings tomorrow night, so that the next council meeting I'll give you an update on what those two agencies have going on. The Land Use Committee, of which Dr. Chase, Councilman Prasad, and Councilman Vassanello are all members, will meet later this month. The Redevelopment Agency met last night, and they gave an overview of the next step in the redevelopment area, which was met with enthusiasm by the committee. They will be back at our next meeting to do a firm update on exactly which way they're going to go and which way we want to go as a committee. Last but not least, I want to once again to talk about the Franklin ladies basketball team. And just to show that we do have athletic talent, and if we can keep the teams playing here, instead of allowing our talent to go elsewhere, we definitely have a powerhouse inside Franklin Township. But most of all, and this is the best part, they're smart. They're talented, but yet they're smart. And if you caught the beginning of our meeting, they each told you what college that they were going to. So it's not just for the sport's sake that we have them. It makes them a well-rounded individual,
and most of all, once again, they go to college. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Francois.
I really only have one comment. I think I was amazed to hear the word eminent domain used so many times, and we were going so far with that conversation about what the township should be doing. I don't think ever before, in my knowledge, that it has been a policy that the township likes to use, a procedure that the township likes to go forward with, to use eminent domain. We try to avoid eminent domain at all costs, and I know we've done that on the redevelopment agency. So I was a little perplexed about how far we were going with that conversation. I think our township attorney recommended that there were some legal options that they could pursue, and if they really want to do that, fine, but I would be hesitant to think that we would want to use eminent domain and displace those people out of their homes. So I was baffled that we were.
No, Deputy Mayor, let me just clarify one thing.
Okay.
This would just be for a very, very small portion of the property, and that's the issue. It's not putting people out of their homes. This dispute centers on a 20-foot by 75-foot piece of property at the back end of this woman's property, the woman not being here today to discuss her version of this, only Mr. Martin here to speak about his side of this. She acquired the property in 2000. No, there is nothing subsequent in her transaction documents, deed and what have you, that indicates that there was an easement on the property. And what Mr. Raynon simply was stating was that if we were to take this property to build a township street, which would be what the township would do, those are the actions that would be necessary. If they utilize the civil courts to enforce what they feel is their right as far as an easement is concerned, that's their remedy that is being recommended.
Okay.
Is that about right, Mr. Raynon?
That is exactly correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. So the woman that was not here, what is her position?
The woman who's not here, her position is that she owns her property outright. There are no easements across her property, and no one has the right to cross her property. And to be honest, this actually, if my recollection is correct, what finally prompted her to block off this portion of the road on her property was that there was a Meals on Wheels truck that either got stuck or did damage to her property. I think a sprinkler head or something with her lawn sprinkling system. And she said, enough is enough. They're driving across my backyard and I don't want them there anymore. And she took it as also a threat from a safety standpoint that cars were driving through her backyard in the middle of the night who were going to the DNR Canal State Park property and then continuing through onto her property at night, and she felt that was a security risk.
Okay. Well, they had a nice map, but I guess I couldn't get the whole visual.
Yeah, no, I understand why you're thinking, no, we're not talking about taking the whole property, and Mr. Raynon was speaking about just a very small sliver of it if that was necessary for us to build a road.
When I heard building roads, I'm thinking.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
Roads are, they're not small.
No.
Trivial
Right.
space. So I guess.
Yeah, and they're not 20
misunderstood
foot
that.
wide either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 40 foot wide.
Okay. I have nothing else to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you very much. I just have a few comments here. One of them, I actually went last Sunday to a fundraiser for Second Chance for Animals. I actually met Councilman Kramer, his wife, over there, and it was a great event. We got to walk the dogs. I think there were somewhere around 150 or so dogs there. Got to take them on a nice ramble around Colonial Park, and there were a lot of vendors from the area selling both dog-related items, as well, dog and cat-related items, as well as other things to help raise funds for the shelter. So it was a great event. I'm going to bounce around here a little bit, and then I went to after the president of the school board came here at our last meeting and invited us to show up at the meeting. I showed up at their last meeting where they picked the new superintendent, Dr. Ravalli. Very nice gentleman. He was there with his wife and daughter as he was appointed the new school board superintendent. So that was a very nice event. It was knock on wood on that one, and it was a 5-year contract. So so he is sad. And then I did get a call this afternoon from the governor's office that they're awarding us a grant of $131,841 from a DEP Clean Communities.
That's our annual grant for clean
Grant.
communities. That's correct. We receive that every year as a kind of a standard fare.
They said they'll send official word out in a couple of days. And now I'm off on a little bit of a theme here. May is also National Bike Month. For everybody at home, there is a bicycle with you can just see kind of a helmet sticking out there. And this week is also National Bike to Work Week. So since I do work here, and this is a work environment, I did bike to work tonight. I'm a little worried about riding home down South Middle Bush Road when we get out of here, but I think I will.
I'll give you a ride.
I'll take my chances on the bike with that one.
I'll give you a ride.
You won't say where to, but you'll give me a ride. And on that same bicycling note, on May 20th at 7 p.m. in the parking lot right out in front of the police headquarters, there is a bike ride called the Ride of Silence. It is to honor bicyclists and pedestrians that have been hit and injured by cars or hit and killed by cars, to raise awareness for car-bike safe interaction. Then on the final note, there was on this Sunday, I was asked by the police department and some officers there. It is the annual Police Unity Tour that actually finishes tomorrow in D.C., I believe. What they do is
They're actually there today.
I think tomorrow is the presentation at the
Yeah,
monument.
they got to do. I'm looking at someone's Facebook page. I must admit right now, because I was going to say something in my report. So yes, they got there today.
I saw that they arrived, and knock on wood, everybody did arrive safely. Yep. But they left on Sunday morning at around 8 o'clock from our police department. There were between 350, 400 police officers from around the country. I met a few from Anchorage, Alaska. They flew in here to stay at our hotels here. They said they love staying in Franklin because we're very amenable and hospitable. And 90 riders from the Los Angeles Police Department came out with all of their Harley Davidsons that Federal Express sent 2 full 18-wheelers of bicycles and motorcycles out here for this. So it is quite an event. But what they do is, they asked me to speak at the start of it, and then they asked me if I would ride with them to ride them out of town. So it was so kind of awe-inspiring that I rode with them for, only a few miles, only about 30 or so miles, and then turned around. But what I thought was very interesting and kind of brought a lot of tears at the event, each one of the people in it rides for somebody in their honor or their memory, a fallen officer. And at each one of the rest stops, they ask a few of the officers or a few of the people there to speak about who they're riding for. And there was a young woman there whose husband was shot during a traffic stop. There was the young guy from Alaska. 2 of his partners were shot serving a small warrant to a person. So it just kind of brought the reality of that job to heart. And then what this is there was a deputy chief of police actually there were 5 of them that Los Angeles sent out here, and they passed along a memorial coin to me for the ride that actually has I'll pass it around to everybody. It has the chief of police from the 56th chief of police from Los Angeles, as well as kind of the motto that they for the Ride of Silence has. So I just thought that was very kind of meaningful, and it actually was very awe-inspiring and moving. So on that note, that is all I have. So I'll pass that around if anybody wants to take a quick peek at it. Oh, and the last thing is the Los Angeles Police Department did bring a wreath for the Unity Tour, and they placed it out front of our police department where the memorial stone is out there. So that was very nice of them as well. Okay. So now on to the Township Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some housekeeping. I remind council, I sent out an email a week or so ago about your online training for the MEL. The deadline is June 1st, so I'd ask that you please complete that. I think some of you have done it already, and I have done mine as well, and it's pretty quick. It's basically watching a video online, so relatively painless. That was one. Two, just to kind of, and I don't usually do this, but given my background here, I'm going to do it today, just to kind of further the discussion that the mayor just had. This is actually National Police Week this week, and so no, and the deputy mayor said, why didn't we have a proclamation? I don't do proclamations. I will just mention it that, as a retired police officer, I would like to thank all of our police officers, not just here in Franklin Township, but everywhere throughout the United States. This is a difficult time to be a police officer. I'm very proud to say that I am always a police officer, and I will always be a police officer at heart. And I would like to thank all of my fellow officers for the job that they do. And the only other thing I have to add is some council people asked me a question earlier about the man with the camera in the back of the room. The man with the camera is there to record our council meeting because we had an equipment failure in the cable TV station. This council meeting, much to, I'm sure, all your dismay, is not live. It will be recorded and played on the station. There's, as you know, in our capital budget, approved new equipment for the TV station. This is just a true sign that new equipment is necessary, and we're going to move forward with that project as quickly as we can, and we're hoping that we can make a stopgap repair to get us back on live for council meetings. But for right now, we are able to run the taped ones on the station. So it did go dark for a short period of time, and we were able to get it back up with the recordings. But that's why he's back there with the camera, so we can record this meeting. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Seeing no council discussion items, the following minutes are hereby presented for approval by the Township Council. Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting, April 14th, 2015 at 7 p.m. Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting, April 28th, 2015 at 7 p.m. Township Council Executive Session, April 28th, 2015.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Warrants in the amount of $3,954,333.56 on May 12, 2015 are presented to the Township Council for payment.
Motion to pay.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Ah.
You have to vote, Mayor.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. Ordinance number 4106-15. An ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, and State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 354, Telecommunication Services, New Appendix, Article 11, Promotion in Motion, Inc., Schoolhouse Road and Cottontail Lane. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order.
Motion for public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. This meeting is open for public discussion on the ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand, and when recognized, give your name and address.
Seeing no one coming forward, Mayor, I motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Ordinance number 4107-15, bond ordinance providing for the 2015 road resurfacing program in and by the Township of Franklin, in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, the Township appropriating $2,550,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,422,500 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. The
So
fore-
moved. Oh, I'm sorry.
One more sentence. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication, in accordance with law, and the public hearing and final adoption Tuesday, May 26, 2015, 7 p.m. in the Municipal Complex.
So moved.
Seconded.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Bond ordinance number 4108-15. Bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by and in the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. The Township appropriating $1,661,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,580,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, May 26, 2015, at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Complex.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
I just wanted to ask, those numbers seem to be larger than the ordinance that is in front of us on paper and on the minute track.
Where's the attorney?
Right here.
You said 1,600,000 something?
661.
1,661,000.
In the minute track says 1,466,000 and 394,000.
Being rolled with other.
It got, well, yeah, it went down. It got changed. If you opened up your minute track before it was changed, you might have the original one. It's actually, the one in your folder should be the correct one that has the lower numbers.
Oh,
So the correct number is 1,466,000?
On the agenda.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Went down.
Oh, that's why we have
It is
the copies here.
1,000,000.
Yes.
Okay.
66.
466,000.
Well, yes to that.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Ordinance number 4109-15. Bond ordinance providing for various capital acquisitions and improvements for the water utility of the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. The Township appropriating $1,033,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,033,000 bonds or notes of the water utility of the Township to finance the cost thereof. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, May 26, 2015, 7 p.m. in the Municipal Complex.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay. Ordinance number 4110-15. Capital ordinance appropriating $450,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund to pay for the acquisition of vehicles and safety equipment in and by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, May 26, 2015, at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Complex.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Ordinance number 4111-15 is being pulled from the agenda and will be on next meeting's agenda, as I understand.
That's correct. There's just a wording issue that needs to be corrected. And I'll just thank Councilwoman Sherman for bringing that to my attention. She was very attentive.
So, items A through S, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Resolution 15-183, requesting the state of New Jersey include a pedestrian walk bikeway with proposed replacement plans of Amwell Road Bridge that extends over the DNR Canal.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Kramer?
So this is, everyone knows the bridge, Amwell Road leaving the town as you leave East Millstone. Right now, to get from East Millstone and the few commercial areas in East Millstone to the canal path, you have to cross Amwell Road in a very dangerous area. This walkway will certainly ease that danger. It's a much safer way of doing it, and it could be a bit of a commercial benefit to the deli there near there, and the antique store that sells food as well. So people on the path can stop and have a snack or have lunch a little bit more safely and easily. So I do recommend we pass it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, could I just interject one? And so Councilman Kramer has pushed very hardly, and I heard Councilman Chase earlier say that, I think, what was it, 7 meetings in the last 2 days? I attended one, and that was for Councilman Chase today, and that was the Millstone Valley Scenic Byway stakeholders meeting. And so that stakeholders meeting was comprised of a variety of organizations of both historic and ecological commissions and committees. And I brought this up to them, Councilman, and what they had said to me was they felt so strongly about it that I am to circulate this resolution of our council to all of those organizations that deal with, like, Millstone Valley Preservation Coalition and the like, and they will be doing their own resolutions to send to the state of New Jersey on behalf of what you've had championed here to get that pedestrian crossing on the bridge.
Good.
As a cyclist, I move for passage on this one as well. In case nobody guessed, I am a bit of a cyclist. So, okay, Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Not tonight, you're not.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Are there any nominations for boards, committees, commissions? Okay. Hearing none.
I'm
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm not going to make a nomination tonight, but I did ask Ms. McCarthy to make a new copy of a citizen leadership form by a young man named Mark Bauer that was originally sent in, I think last year or the year before, since we do have an opening for alternate number 2 on the planning board. I'm anticipating that other council members may wish to also to submit names, so I want to give everybody a chance to do so, but if they don't, then I would probably put his name forward at the next meeting. He was a summer intern with our director of planning who spoke well of him.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Resolution 15.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I just thought it might be useful at this point to list the boards and commissions that still have openings, so people may want to apply. Council has done citizens, let's put it where it belongs. Citizens have done a good job volunteering, and we have relatively few openings, but there is an advisory board of health opening for a non-voting student member, 2 cable committee regular member openings. There's some openings on the Cultural Arts Council, Hamilton Street Advisory Board for a resident who lives within the SID, a Housing Authority regular member, Planning Board alternate member number 2, Rent Leveling Board, numerous openings. I don't believe, when was the last time they?
Let's do it. So the Rent Leveling Board, if you're interested, call me. I don't believe at this particular point we have any active members of our Rent Leveling Board.
The Senior Citizen Advisory Committee is Senior Citizen non-club member opening, and the Sewage Authority alternate number 1 member. Thank you.
And I also have a Shade Tree appointment that if someone is interested in the Shade Tree Commission, we have an opening there as well.
I have a recommendation.
Very good.
I think we filled Councilman Prasad suggested someone for the senior advisory. Constance Pizzette. Yeah, but she's on. She was there at the last meeting.
She was the non-senior member. This is the senior non-club member that we still have.
This is the senior non-member. At large.
I didn't know that was an open seat.
Independent senior.
Okay.
Well, we have another senior citizen leadership form here that it says senior citizen non-club.
Yeah, we just got that in this week.
Mahmoud Jalani.
Is somebody going to reach out to the individual?
I'll reach out.
Okay.
All right. So, on that note, Resolution 15-184, authorize executive session personnel, Township Clerk review is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, will you poll the council?
Yes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanelli?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay. At this time, the Township Council will adjourn to the executive session to discuss personnel, Township Clerk review. No other actions will be taken by the Township Council at the conclusion of this executive session. Therefore, the recording of this meeting will end now.